Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I thought I would go through Your Physique December of 1950 with Floyd Page on the cover, as shown here, Professional Mr. America. He had just won that competition. You can see his stats here: 5'10", weight of 195 pounds, arms 17 3/4 inches, chest of 48 inches, waist of 30 inches, thighs 25.5 inches, one of America's leading contenders for the world's best developed man. A great photo here of Floyd Page doing what is a single biceps pose. Fantastic development for a silver era bodybuilder. Now this particular magazine presented some very interesting articles, of many of which I've already talked about in the previous videos that I've presented to you. And I'll just quickly go through some of the really interesting stuff that I found within this particular issue. Now, what I really enjoyed actually, and I've shared recently with John Park, was many of these very rare photos of Reg Park actually advertising weighter equipment. You can see he's loading some dumbbells here. He's got the weighter outfit, and I've shared with these with John Park because we're in a collaborative project right now, researching his father's iconic status in bodybuilding. Some great photos here of Leo Robert, who I covered also in an arms video recently. Secrets of the Champs, written by Joe Wader, was a fantastic article that I covered, which covered the importance of the light dumbbell system and muscular control, especially for developing definition. And I did do a video on this recently. And here we have actually a very rare photo of Vince Gironda with Monty Wolford actually. Oh, that's just too far zoomed in. A very rare photo of him, and you can see he's not as ripped as he was later on in his 60s, in the 50s and in the late 50s and 60s. But anyway, it does, as I mentioned earlier, cover a great article on Max Alding, on his views on muscle control, on the use of the light dumbbell system. And Joe Wader actually proposes in this article that if you were to combine the progressive resistance methods of building musculature and on the rest days performing muscle control and the light dumbbell system, this would lead to not just a very well muscularly developed physique, but also quite defined, in that these movements bring out the striations. A very interesting article that was. Now, the Science of the Lat Machine article written by Charles A. Smith, I also covered in a separate in a separate video that I called from memory. Let me see if I can find it. I've got my notes right here. That's it, Lat Machine for complete abdominal development. That's what I actually called it. And I featured these exercises, which I found interesting because not only do we see the cable crunch in various different forms, but it actually also goes through the importance of toning the viscera. And that's what I really liked about this article, in that it reflects the silver era mentality of not just developing a physique, but maintaining health through the development of the physique. And by toning the visceral organs, you tone the entire system, not just the muscular system, but the organs as well. A very interesting point there by Charles A. Smith. Leo Robert, as I mentioned, I covered in a recent video where I listed his favorite arm exercises. And he did develop some fantastic arms using the set out method that he talks about. And this article was so interesting because it went through step by step, not just through his favorite exercises, but the phases during his bodybuilding career in which he used these exercises. For example, he used the barbell curl to develop mass, then further developed mass using the cheat curl, and then began to do this kind of a preacher curl motion and standing dumbbell curls, for example, for developing more shape and peak on his biceps. So he really goes through the beginner's phase, intermediate, and advanced level of arm development. Very excellent exercise. I've read this particular anatomy physiology for the bodybuilder article, but again, I'm not really into going through all this stuff, so I kind of passed on that. Now, the various forms of the flushing muscle methods written by Reg Park was a fantastic article that I've actually shared as well with John Park. Here we have Reg Park, for example, doing a very rare crab pose, a most muscular pose, a variant of the most muscular pose, and a victory pose. Very, very rare to see Reg Park doing this particular pose. And he talks about here his favorite supersets, which is a video I recently covered. He talks about how he used high volume as well as training for power and alternated between these two methods of training. And yeah, I mean, he talks about all these fantastic methods here, as the title suggests, various forms of the flushing muscle methods. It's a great article. Now here's one of, I guess you could call one of Wader's gimmicks. Here we have the Herculean torso tension developer. I'm pretty sure most of us haven't ever actually heard of this before, but it was kind of like an X-framed object, you can see, with springs that allowed you to pull or push, depending on where you actually put the spring, to develop tensile strength, develops tendons, etc. Very similar to the iron shoe in concept. And I never covered this because as many would recognize, this is kind of a gimmick. I guess it would lend to training for strongmen, kind of grip work and that kind of activity, because it is about, I guess, more about bending nails, bending horseshoes. That's where the application of such an apparatus would lead to. But for bodybuilders, I don't necessarily think it's, of course, that important, unless you were doing strongman acts. Nevertheless, it's still a fairly interesting article in that it showcases all the different exercises that one can do with, for example, an iron horseshoe or such a apparatus. I don't actually own one, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but I didn't actually share that information in particular. Although I did introduce Dick Torrio, a wrestler and bodybuilder from the 1950s, in an article. This is another article called What is the Ideal Physique, which covers the Farnese Hercules in its many art forms as depicted over the years. This is something else I haven't gone through, although I did actually go through this one, get that championship look, in that it inspired me to talk about Pectus Excavatum, because that is what is actually addressed in this particular article. I know that the title reads Get That Championship Look, but as you can read here is how you can rid yourself of protruding shoulder blades, round shoulders, and a cramped flat chest. It goes through Pectus Excavatum. It goes through rounded shoulders and all these issues with poor posture as well as protruding shoulder blades. And I did cover extensively a video on this, where basically the idea is to use this two-step approach, and that is to fix the posture and to expand the rib cage, to bring elasticity into the rib cage, to prevent and correct for the sunken chest syndrome. The posture, of course, is corrected through the correction of the musculature in the back, the shoulders and trapezius, as well as the abdominals and the chest, the serratus magnus, etc. All of these muscles are worked and very well explained in this article, which again inspired me to create that video on correcting for sunken chest and rounded shoulders. It was a great article. I really enjoyed it. Beyond that, the last article that was featured in this particular magazine was written by Alan Steffen, Whose Pupil Am I? And it's actually written as a I wouldn't say a verbal attack, but kind of an answer to the fans, because apparently York, through the Strength and Health magazine, had named Alan Steffen their pupil. But I mean, Wader used to do the same thing, and he actually talks about here in this article how he's nobody's student. He made himself, he created his own physique using his own principles, which I guess are borrowed from all the important figures of bodybuilding and weightlifting back then, of course being York and Wader. But he definitely says that he's not anyone's pupil, that is a self-created physique. And that's basically what is covered in this fantastic issue of Your Physique. It reaches December 1950 Your Physique with Floyd Page on the cover. I hope you've enjoyed watching this small review. Oh, not really small, it's already 10 minutes. This review on this vintage magazine. I'll continue bringing you more reviews, of course, on books, magazines, as well as detailed videos on the topics from the silver era, golden era, and bronze era, because I really enjoy doing these kinds of videos too. Again, hope you've enjoyed watching the video. We now move on to 1951, the early 50s, with an excellent magazine coming up, actually, with Reg Park on the cover. You're going to love it. I will review this in the very near future. Again, hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm. Leave me your comments and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, please donate via PayPal. You can become a patron or visit my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com, and you can find old school bodybuilding courses and books that are out of print. And if you also like, you can contact me via email if you wish to pass on your books and magazines, which I'm always adding to my collection. Anyway, that's it for me. Hope you've enjoyed the video. This is the Golden Era Bookworm saying bye for now.